All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another DC Worlds Collide video. This is Mr. Squirrel, as always. Glad to have you here. So, I wanted to kind of preface this video and talk a little bit about my general take on dropping of this event, dropping the new reinforcement, which I think is very cool. I love the new artifacts that they just dropped. Overall, I think all of these things were really nice additions to the game. I'm glad they dropped more stuff. And I do want to give the devs props for, I think there is an increase in improvement from last season in terms of what has been dropped a little bit more. Now, instead of just getting like a dead week of a reinforcement, I do imagine next week we'll probably get something else. I think they are trying to supplement new content every week. It does at least feel like every week we are getting something right now. There are some weeks it's a little bit more, some weeks it's a little bit less. But overall, it does feel like we are getting something new every single week. So I do think that's really cool. And I do want to give props to the devs for that. I do think that's a nice change. So again, one of the things you'll notice about my channel is I try to avoid being very overly negative. It's just for my own mental health. I do like to stay in the positive realm of things. It does help me being just me, right? Okay. Now, but I do want to talk a little bit about something that I want to, I mean, I've been communicating this in many, I think in, with Superhero, and I was commenting on this in just live streams before, and I want to talk a little bit about the need for content, diverse content where we can test characters. I do believe this is content, but I think it falls in the realm of content, like additional content that's good, right? But it's just another thing we need to get versus a thing to use. So I want to differentiate content from getting to using, right? So if we think about get, right, you have to get the reinforcement. You have to get the artifacts. I'm going to move past this now, right? So we have, you go to the event center and we have the rot, right? We have the, sorry, I'm like Seath, who is the avatar of rot, right? Very cool. Looks super cool, yada, yada, yada. Overall, I think it's a very good reinforcement, right? But you have to get him, right? There is a getting associated with this new content. Right now, if we look at, I'm going to scroll over here, the artifacts. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 new artifacts. Great, love them, the elite artifacts. I'm really glad they added to the game. I do think overall it's really nice. It gives, I think, better, more diverse artifacts that we can, now you're going to see me use this word, get. Right? So there are two pieces of content right now that is about getting. We are getting things. We are trying to get them through doing things, right? Now, what I want to highlight is use versus there is get and then there is use. And so one of the other pieces I want to talk about is the need for content that we can use these things in, right? So if we think about the Hal Jordan event, now, Hal Jordan event is both a get and a use. I actually think these events are really nice. I don't want the devs, I personally don't want them to change these events. I think overall they keep making the shop. Oh, my thing is a little wonky there. We'll fix that right now. Give me 2 seconds. I need to adjust a little bit here. Okay, we're back. Sorry, need to do some adjustments. But the thing that's nice about the Hal Jordan event is it's both a get and a use. You get, so if I go here, resources through using or doing the event, which is incredibly important. We get and use that. This is why I think these events, these new character events, do so well, is because there is both a get and a use, right? Or do, get, use, do, whatever you want to use the word, the verb for this is. But the moral of the story is that there is content that we are getting things. There is content where we're using things. Now, currently, though, we only have getting based content. And I think my thing right now is that I would really like content where we can use our characters. Not small events. I think one thing way back when, and on my channel, let me see if I can actually go find it. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, this video is where you see me, hi me, going through the fatal exception. Now, we haven't had this event. Did I just move something? I did. I'll figure it out later. We haven't had an event like this in a hot minute. This is an event where there is no, well, there is a get. You get the 8th medals, but you have to use your characters to do it. I think this event at the time it was released was not well structured, but at the same time, I'm glad they released it. It was overall, it was something to do, to use our characters, right? It gave a purpose to these things. So if we come back now to the Avatar of Rot, to Seth, to the new artifacts, all of these things are great, but there is a lack of where to use them. And I think that's something that should be a high priority right now. I think that they should do some more fatal exceptions. I think they should change up what is the negative in there. Maybe, I mean, now that our accounts are expanding, I do think that even that mode is a little bit more friendly-ish. I mean, but at the same time, you still need 30 plus characters. You need like 35 something characters, which no one's going to have right now. Even still, I do think they need to change up the negative where it's not just auto killing your characters. I think there should be other things. Maybe it's like you do, like you receive more physical or superpower, whatever. We'll figure that out later. But I do think we need more content like that. Tower modes, things to test and push our accounts. Because as we can see right here, I'm going to scroll over to my, bulletin. I'm at 55-2. And so overall, many of the people on my server were starting to push in that 65 where there is a hard lock right now, where the fight is so difficult you can't beat it, right? And as more and more players get to this point, we're losing things to do, to use our characters in. If story went on forever, then, and there was still more rewards sitting in the story mode, all that jazz, then that would be fine. Now, again, what I don't want to do in this video is take away from the work that devs are doing. So I don't want people to tack onto this video and be like, see, he said they're doing a horrible job. And I think there are areas of growth, but I do see at the same time, they are trying. And I think we as a community also need to acknowledge, now, do I think that there's way too much monetization? I do. We can talk about that in a separate video. But what I do want to acknowledge is that they are changing things that we are asking for. We said the reinforcement by itself wasn't enough. They released more artifacts. I've been saying for like a while now, we need more artifacts. You can't release 4 characters and in a season and then 1 artifact. We are going to quickly run out of artifacts that we can use, right? Especially since the rare artifacts don't have the stats that we need to compete with higher stages. So I do want to give the devs credit in this regard. I am really happy with the changes that they have made here. So again, before people quote this video and saying, see, he's saying I'm not saying they're doing a horrible job. I think there is a lot of rooms for improvement. But at the same time, there are levels that they are improving. At the same time, I haven't really, there have been slower weeks, which I think is fair. But at the same time, we are seeing far less dead weeks than we have, especially when we compare it to the first season. So there are adjustments going on to the content. Now, again, people can push back. I'm not trying to shill. I'm actually trying to look at this 100% objectively right now, as opposed to thinking with my emotions. If I'm thinking with my emotions, I will have a very different take. I'm trying to objectively look at what is changing. And there are things that are changing. If you look at this game, granted, has there been crazy amounts of content? No. But at the same time, we said that there was a lot of lulls in the season, and they put in a mid-season legendary, which does help the second half of the season, right? So I think we have 2 more weeks on this season, and next week they probably release another event. But we just got a reinforcement plus new artifacts to work towards. Granted, I do wish, what I'm trying to say in this video, and this is what I was about to say with and I do wish, is that we got more use content. I think devs, you're on the right track right now. I think you're making good adjustments. I think some monetization needs to be adjusted. I've talked about that extensively. Simply put, bring back the dollar deal. And I think bring down the pity for legendaries to 100. And I think we're well on our way. Now, I think we need to think about more about what is content that we can use our characters in. Because again, as we wrap it, as the majority of the global players start approaching that 65-30 wall, you're going to need content that diversifies, because otherwise we are going to quickly run out of things to do and things to use these characters. And then that eliminates. And I'm going to leave this quote. And I was thinking about this, so, that is a good quote. So in these gacha games, characters are what sell a game. But do you know what sells a character? Game modes. Because these characters can be the coolest thing in the world, but if you have nowhere to use this character, then you don't need to summon for the character. Doesn't matter if it's the coolest character in the world. Your people also want meta characters. If you guys remember, I don't know if anyone's ever played the game Dokkan Battle. Long story short, a couple years back, they released a character by the name of Captain Ginyu. Ginyu is not a super hype character in the fandom, right? There are people that like him. He's funny. He's a funny character. You can look him up. But what ended up happening is they released this character that was super crazy broken, and he made one mode very easy. And people summoned and it was a hard mode, and he made one of the hardest modes in the game very easy. That ended up making him very popular in the game's context because people wanted the super crazy broken character, and that character not trivialized, but he made it a lot easier, which was considered at the time the hardest game mode, and he made the hardest game mode easier. People summoned. Now, do you see what that does? Is that if Kyle, let's use Kyle as an example here. So if Kyle, let's just say Kyle comes out, you have this new crazy hard mode, you kill a character. Now, I don't like this full idea, so I do want to be very careful what I'm saying here. I'm not saying every character should be just perfectly tailor-made. There should be free-to-play options in the game that already exist. But if you have this character that does help in these specific hard modes, it does sell the character. Now, again, I do want to be very careful what I'm saying. It should not be this character is the only solution. It should be only tool to the problem, but should be a very good tool to said problem. See what I mean? But there should be multiple tools in the shed to solve that problem. So again, what I am saying here is we need more content where we can use our characters, and it incentivizes us to go for all of these things. And that will, remember, character sells game. Game modes sell character. See what I mean? So if there's no need for these characters to be pulled, people don't want to summon. Okay. I hope this video helps. Love to hear everyone's feedback. And as always, remember, failing is just your first attempt at learning.